Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Air with Brian Gregory. It's time to play the game, Luke. It is time to play the game.
We're here now.
We've officially made it. This is our college football playoff brackets prediction show. We're very excited to get into this. We wait all season for this, and I've got to say, just looking at this fields, I think that we are going to have a lot better of a first rounds than we had last year. I mean, there were a lot of very predictable blowouts last year, and I don't really feel the same about the slate that we have this weekend, especially the one Friday night.
No, yeah, this is going to be an incredible just slate of games, especially, we have kind of a mix of the Cinderellas that you want to see with the James Madisons and the Tulanes, and then you also have, the big brand names, whether or not it's Alabama, it's Oklahoma, it's Miami, not even getting into the Ohio States and the Georgias that are just waiting for teams to win and waiting for a date with those teams in the quarterfinals. So this is when you look at what the committee wanted to accomplish with the 12-team playoffs. I think this is honestly one of the best jobs that they've done. And there's even a few teams that got left out that would have made great matchups too.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's teams like I feel like and I know it's all controversial, but your Notre Dames, your Vanderbilts, your Texases, I think would have made great matchups as well. But I love the fields that we have. I mean, there's a couple games this weekend that I think could potentially be snoozers, and we'll get into that. But generally, we have a very healthy, very fruitful fields, and like you said, it's those games later on, and this tournament that I think will be fascinating when you see Georgia come into the mix, you see Indiana come into the mix, you see Ohio State come into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be really good stuff. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with our predictions for this weekend's, and then we'll get into. Both Luke and I have made our full brackets. We're ready to go. We're ready
Yep.
to release them. And so, without further ado, let's start with Oregon and JMU on Saturday night up in Eugene. Initially I couldn't believe that this was the night game, but then because I was thinking, it should be A&M in Miami, but then I thought to myself, Bears Packers, they don't want to compete with the NFL here, so let's just throw Oregon and JMU up here for
Right.
that night slate game. And so I won't take up too much of y'all's time with this. Oregon is favored by 21 points, 3 touchdowns for a reason. It's because they're going to blow the doors off of JMU. Now, JMU was dominant this year. I mean, they destroyed their conference. They were phenomenal. They did their job. They did what they needed to do. But they're going up into Eugene. This is a different beast here. My concern about Oregon and why I like their draw for this game in particular is that they're a little banged up. There's questions about Decorian Moore.
Yeah.
There's questions about Evan Stewart potentially coming back. And then there's some injuries, especially around the interior of the offensive line. So that's never what you want going into the matchup with Texas Tech per se in a few weeks. So I hope those guys get rested up. But playing the Dukes this weekend, I like I like Notre Dame's not there. I like Oregon to win in dominant fashion. I'm thinking 42-17.
Yeah, when I look at this matchup, and I'm not sleeping on JMU, they're one of the better defensive teams in the country. They're great at stopping the run. I believe they're like top 3 in the country in stopping the run, and that's obviously what Oregon's going to want to kind of establish early on. But you look at Oregon, and they're even better at stopping the run. And this JMU defense is very vaunted. They got a lot of playmakers there. For me, I think JMU is very reliant on the big play. We saw in that conference championship game against Troy, a team that they quite frankly outmatched. Uh, just man to man, they kind of struggled a little bit. And for me, Oregon is just when you look at this matchup, it's just not even really fair on paper. The injuries are a question, but I like Oregon to take care of business here. I'm going to go a little bit lower scoring than you. I'll go Oregon wins 31-10.
That's fair. I think it'll be a wide margin. It's one of those, Oregon, you haven't played in 3 weeks, so there could be
Yeah.
a little bit of rust, but they may not skip a beat. So I wouldn't be surprised if there's a bit of a slow start, like maybe 10-3 at the end of the first quarter. But I like Oregon to eventually expand their lead here. All right, let's go out to the SIP. Let's bang this one out here too. So this game happened earlier in the season, and this thing wasn't even close. Absolute blowout for the Rebs in Vaught Hemingway. Same venue. This is your 2:30 kick on Saturday afternoon. Both teams are in a weird kind of wonky situation when it comes to their head coaching right now. I mean, obviously Ole Miss is locked into Pete Golding, so that's their guy. I still can't believe that. I'm still
Yeah.
trying to and that they didn't even conduct like a full on professional search, but okay. And then, of course, John Summerall is still coaching up Tulane, and so you've got a coach there who's got 1 foot in and 1 foot out, and I like what Tulane has done this year. I mean, they've been very explosive on offense, but kind of like we saw in that first matchup, especially going up against the interior of Ole Miss's defense. You know, get guys like Perkins cooking. I think that Ole Miss is going to dominate this game. Get Harrison Wallace cooking. Get Caden Lee going. I think that Trinidad Chambliss is going to absolutely ball out on Saturday. I think he'll feel very, very comfortable. I think you'll see a very efficient day out of him. Very few incompletions, and I like Ole Miss to win this one, 35-17.
Yeah, both these teams have some coaching things. Now Summerall, he actually did a very good thing the other day. He donated $100K to the talent fund for Tulane, which I thought that was a very cool thing to see. They have Jordan Retzlaff, the BYU transfer at quarterback, and they've definitely got some playmakers. They really dominated North Texas, but this Ole Miss team is a different beast, and yeah, I expect kind of a similar result to the beginning of the season. I expect that Ole Miss offense with Chambliss and Lacey and Wallace, all those guys you mentioned, just to, kind of take over. And I expect for Ole Miss to get this done in a pretty dominant fashion and to kind of, put put some respect on Pete Golding's name, I guess, for the Rebs fan base. They seem pretty behind him too. I'll take Ole Miss to win this game 45-20.
I can't believe how behind Pete Golding they are. Like there's no question about it. I mean, there's a lot of resentment, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
towards Lane Kiffin when he left, and understandably so with the way that he left. But they've completely bought into Pete Golding and his
Yeah.
whole team here, and so it's cool to see. I'm low key, I'll insert my bias in a little bit. Ole Miss is my second favorite team in college football, so I would love to see a little run out of them, especially given the circumstances that they faced the past couple of weeks. I mean, this is a very talented team, and I think that the whole Lane Kiffin situation has brought them even more together. So you got a little surprise on your bracket that we're going to get into tonight.
That's right.
I think we'll surprise a lot of people, and I kind of considered it myself too. But for now, we'll stick with this weekend's, and like you, I like the Rebs. All right,
Mm-hmm.
let's get into this 11 a.m. matchup on Saturday morning. Kyle Fields. We got the Hurricanes traveling to College Station to take on Texas A&M, and this is a fascinating matchup. This is a very even matchup. The point spread is 3.5, and I think that these teams are similar yet different.
Yeah.
I mean, Miami is your more physical team, although Malachi Tony. I mean, if if that guy gets cooking,
Mm-hmm.
look out. That has to be the number one factor. That's the number one point of concentration for Texas A&M's defense is how do you limit Malachi Tony, and then on offense, your line, tight ends. How do you prevent Ruben Bain from getting going?
Right.
All right, so like you have two prime playmakers on either side of the ball for Miami. They've been a very physical team this year. A&M has been a very explosive team. right? I mean, you guys, Mario Craver, Casey Concepcion, Marcel Reed can pop off every now and then for a huge run. However, something I was looking at when I was preparing for this was Miami has faced quite a few running quarterbacks this year, guys who can
Hmm.
pop off explosive plays, and they contain them very well. And Marcel Reed is one of those guys where he has that capability, right? I mean, he can run, but he's not reliant on that. He knows
Right.
that he has a great arm as well. So I like Miami secondary. I mean, they kept some good receiving cores in check. I mean, especially when you go back and look at that Notre Dame game,
Hmm.
like they kept a very good receiving core in check for a lot of that night, and they I don't think that Notre Dame performed to their full potential in offense that night, and so they are very capable of slowing down productive offenses. But at the end of the day, you've got this thing in Kyle Fields, College Station. It's going to be loud. A&M is coming off of a loss against Texas. It's not quite Ohio State last year, but I think they'll be a little bit pissed off. And so give me the Aggies to win this game in a somewhat low scoring game. I like them 30-24.
Okay, so this is where we kind of differ a little bit. For me, obviously, I think that the best player on the field for either team is Ruben Bain, and so I think that for this game, and I'm not faulting Texas Tech's defensive front because while Miami is both these teams are top five in sacks in the nation, A&M leads the nation in sacks with 41 sacks on the year. So for me, it comes down to who's going to protect better. Obviously, for Miami, Carson Beck is very prone to making mistakes. We saw it again in the Louisville game. Just a disaster for Beck. It almost reminded me of the Vikings against the Saints, where Favre threw the pick to Tracy Porter, and you're just like, what are you doing? I think Paul Allen said it best. This isn't Detroit in September. This is the NFC Championship game. Um,
Paul
but
Allen.
so for me, I think that A&M is going to be able to force Beck into a few mistakes. However, I do like Miami's offense, and I do feel like this offense has really kind of caught a stride, almost similar to what you're feeling with Texas towards the end of the year, how they kind of just hit their stride a little bit later in the year. You go look at some of the previous results for Miami, and they've been dominant over the past month. And now I don't trust Cristobal as far as I can throw him, but but uh, but for me too, it's A&M. A&M's never been in this position, so where is the composure going to be at for Texas A&M? Obviously, the game against Texas, we didn't see a ton of it. So for me, I think that Miami is going to get it done. We're going to throw up the U here, and I think Miami's going to sneak this one out at Kyle Field, and they can thank the College Football Playoff Committee for scheduling this game at 11 a.m. because if it was a night game, there is no chance in hell I'm picking Miami. But an 11 a.m. kick, I like Miami. Look, Miami plays an 11 a.m. kick every week. It feels like so
Yeah.
they're used to this. So give me Miami. We'll go 27-24. They squeak it out. Maybe a big time stop at the end of the game for the Hurricanes.
Look, just the good thing for Miami is that's not on Friday night like it was when they played Louisville this year. I mean, that's a huge plus. That's a huge plus for the Canes. I think that turnover margin is going to be
Turnovers are
huge.
huge,
Your your
massive.
your turnover comparisons here because we've seen both of these quarterbacks get put into positions where they throw picks and then they kind of avalanche. Both of these guys can avalanche
Right.
when they down. We saw it with Marcel Reed in the Texas game, especially. I felt like he was trying to force stuff that wasn't there just to get something going on offense. And
Yeah.
then of course Carson Beck feels very Sam Darnoldy, right? He feels very Daniel Jonesy to me.
Yeah.
And in college football, like when he's on his stride and he's cooking, he's he's great. And all those expectations that you'd have attached to him are justified and rightfully so. But if you can get one of these guys to throw one pick, that can be a difference maker because both of those guys have that avalanche tendency when it comes to turnover, and both of these defenses have the ability to confuse their opponent. Like they're very well coached defenses, and they're both defenses with a lot of talent, a lot of dudes on them.
Yeah, and I think that for me, it's more of I'm not like dissing on A&M or anything, but you saw the game against South Carolina. Took the largest school comeback in school history to win that game, and really, like I know Samford was a 1-9 team, and there's not like a lot of real input you can put into that game. But outside the first quarter, it kind of seemed like they got a little stagnant. And then the offense wasn't great against Texas. And I know they're playing way tougher opponents than Miami has. I mean, Miami's playing Pittsburgh and Syracuse and teams like that. But I just think that this Miami team's kind of hitting their stride late in the year, and that this A&M team's kind of maybe already peaked in a way. And so that's kind of where I'm going with this. And I don't get me wrong. If Texas A&M wins this game, I won't bat an eye. But Miami has also won some big games this year, and so has A&M. But a lot of the teams that A&M played when they were big games, some of those teams kind of faltered off, essentially LSU and Baton Rouge. But so I like Miami in this spot, and I'm riding with Ruben Bain, and I'm riding with Malachi Tony, Little Tony.
Little Tony, my boy, Little Tony. That is a great point that you make about the trends of both these teams right now. And to your point about Miami, I looked this up while we were talking here, and a great receiving core with Notre Dame. They held Malachi Fields to 48 yards, and
Yeah,
they held Jordan Faison to 33 yards. So this
yeah,
is a very, very, Jeremiah Love had 33 rushing yards. Jeremy Price had 45. So
yeah.
I know it's one sample size, but it shows you that this is a very capable defense. But nonetheless, I have a hard time picking against A&M in the spot. And I think a big difference maker for me when I look at this is running the ball. Because we've seen so many teams struggle with running the ball and it come around to bite them in the ass. Our own Alabama Crimson Tide. They've
Yeah.
been a huge example of that this year. And in Miami, they have not been able to run the ball as well as we both expected them to this year with
Yeah.
Jamar Brown. Like I expect that to be a huge duo, and it
That,
just
that those two guys we highlighted them early in the year as potential, even maybe Heisman candidates.
yeah
And so I'm with you right there, and I hear exactly what you're saying, but it's just
yeah
this A&M defensive line. They're great in the pass rush. I think they can be exposed though in the run game, and so I'm not saying that they will be, but I think that there is some holes.
there's the potential. There's a lot of potential mismatches here, but if we're differing, and these are two teams that have screwed us both at times this year. So we
Yeah,
both make this pick with caution. My confidence level is not high. It's probably about
no,
5%. Like you said about you wouldn't be surprised if A&M won. I wouldn't be surprised if Miami won. So there's that. There's my confidence level, and boom, there's our pick for this game.
confidence level minimum.
Yeah, it's very low as per usual with these two. All right. Now we've got the rematch. We've got the rematch of a lifetime. You and I were sitting next to each other the last time we were at this game in
Yeah,
Tuscaloosa at Saban Field at Bryant-Denny Stadium, and our Crimson Tide lost this game. We lost at home. I've only witnessed two Alabama losses at home in my entire life, and this was one of them to another former Big 12 team, which is quite interesting. We get the rematch, and when I first saw this matchup get revealed on the CFP bracket release,
hmm
initially I went with Oklahoma. I think I
right.
was with a lot of emotion because of the Georgia game the day before, and I was like, all right, that's how our offensive line performs against Georgia's defensive line. And granted, that's a fantastic defensive line, but I've had questions about Alabama's O-line all year long. I think it's very talented, but just hasn't come together as a unit. And that Oklahoma defensive line is ferocious. I mean, you got
Oh my gosh,
Stone
they're
there,
incredible.
Thomas, it is incredible. And I believe Mason Thomas is coming back for this game. That's what reports are indicating so far. So he can definitely give Alabama some fits. So I don't love the matchup and the trenches for Alabama, and it's one of our main mottos on the show here. I think I'm going to make sure it's about some point. Success starts in the trenches. It is very true. But another motto that is prevalent on the show is that very seldomly do you beat the same team twice in 1 year, especially when it's the Alabama Crimson Tide or the Georgia Bulldogs or the Ohio State Buckeyes. I would say the same thing if Indiana was playing Ohio State again.
Yeah.
Great triumphant win first time. I don't see it happening again. Just because that opponent is that good. And the same can be said about Alabama. Now, this one to me is going to come down to turnovers. Kind of like that A&M Miami game, this is going to come down to turnovers. And yes, Oklahoma fans, I will give you all credit. I know that you kind of blasted me for my post-game reaction, but back in November, yes, I will give your defense credit. You generated those 3 turnovers. You were giving Alabama confusing looks all afternoon. You confused Ty Simpson. He got flustered, and Oklahoma was great at stripping the ball as well. Like, they're just a very fundamentally sound defense. I would expect that out of a Brett Venables defense, and I think you'll see that again Friday. Alabama has to hold on to the ball. If you're Alabama and you're giving up the ball 2 or 3 times again, Oklahoma's going to win this thing in Norman.
Yeah.
And so Alabama has to play clean, fundamental football. The other thing that I saw in this matchup back in November was, if you're Alabama and you have a drive over 50 yards, you got to get at least 3. Hopefully 7. But we saw it multiple times where Alabama drove right down the field and got nothing, or turned the ball over, or got 3, or missed a field goal. And Oklahoma started with very good field position a lot in that game. So special teams for Alabama. The point is for the first time this year, we've got to see a full, complete game out of Alabama. And this shit is personal here. I mean, you had Oklahoma players spit on Alabama's logo back in November. I mean, this shit is personal. I know it is for me, just coming from the standpoint of an Alabama fan. I hope Bama's players are feeling the same way. But if you want to go up to Norman and win this game, you've got to be buttoned up. You've got to be put together. You've got to play clean football. But I say it to say that if Alabama can do that and play clean and minimize mental errors, minimize turnovers, I think that they can pull this thing off. I have not been that enthralled by Oklahoma's offense at all since John Mateer's injury. He just since an injury, he has not been the same guy. I have not seen the same John Mateer that I saw against Auburn or against Michigan or in any of those early games that matter. He has not been the same guy. And so Oklahoma's offense wasn't great against Alabama the last time they played.
Yeah.
I mean, it was that Alabama had 400 yards of total offense. I don't know if Oklahoma cracked 200. Like, it was that bad. But they're great defensively, and they won the turnover battle. That's what you can't let happen if you're Alabama. But in this scenario, I don't think that lightning strikes twice. I feel like, you want to talk momentum. I don't think Oklahoma's played their best football since the Alabama win. The LSU game, the Missouri game, something has just felt off. They've been very sluggish offensively. So even though it's in Norman, it's going to be cold. It's a Friday night game. I like the Tides to win this rematch with Oklahoma by the score of 23-17.
Oh boy, let's get into this one because I've got a lot of mixed feelings on it. For one, my good friend Brent Venables at Oklahoma, who has given me nightmares for years now since he was at Clemson as the defensive coordinator. He's seemingly always had his best game plans ready for the Alabama Crimson Tide, and he slowed down even some of the best offenses we've seen in college football. And, for me, this game is just simply based off of one thing, and that is, can Alabama control the ball? Because Oklahoma is not going to be a team that's going to run up and down the field on you. Obviously, they have I don't even know how to say his name, Satnaga or Isaiah Satnaga or whatever his name is, the third. Satania. He's a weird name, but he's one guy that can definitely break it open for you. And we've seen multiple times. We saw it against Missouri. He he put together an 87-yard touchdown on just a simple slant route, and that's obviously concerning. But I think that for as much as we talk about Oklahoma's defense, Alabama's defense has been one of the most improved units from week one against FSU, where it looked like they were just soft and didn't even come to play, to now against Georgia. The only times they really got scored on was on short fields, and similar for the Oklahoma game too. It was short fields that really cost Alabama. And so for me, I think that Alabama needs to really be able to control the ball and 7-minute drives. And like you said, you've got to get points out of it. But if you are able to keep that Oklahoma defense on the field for as long as possible, then all of a sudden those blitzes that they're dialing up, that they're keying off on you, that those go down. They start playing, sinking back into their man, their soft shell man or their soft shell zone, and suddenly the field kind of opens up for you. What you can't let them do is tee off on you from the get go and go 2, 3 and outs in the first quarter, similar to how Georgia kind of teed off on Alabama. Can't let that happen, because then you're thrown out of rhythm in an offense that has struggled to have any simple rhythm of just, putting together a few first downs since that Oklahoma game. Like even against Auburn, you had that first half, and the second half of that game was just it was a complete struggle. And so I think that the key for Alabama is going to be able to sequence drives and keep that Oklahoma defense off balance. Another thing I want to say about Alabama is, this is a conversation me and my buddies have had a lot recently, is you've got to get creative and mix up snap counts, because too often is Alabama sitting there and letting the play clock run all the way down to 3 or 2 or 1, and the defense is just able to time the snap count. And by then, your offensive line, who hasn't really been great all year, is getting beat by guys that are able to just basically read their snap count. If you give a defender, and if you lined up an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, and you let them go with forward momentum, or an offensive line that's kind of backpedaling to try and protect their quarterback, the guy with forward momentum wins 90% of the time. So there's so many different, just minuscule but huge details in this Alabama offense that has really cost them recently, and even against this Oklahoma team cost them. Now, looking at Oklahoma, like you mentioned, John Mateer has really, really struggled. I mean, that LSU game was a struggle and a half. And some might argue they were keeping it bland. I say that they were going all out because they needed to make the college football playoff, and the offense just didn't look good. Haven't really been incredible running the ball. One guy that I thought coming into the year was going to be a complete difference maker was Jaden Ott. I'm not sure he's seen the field at all. The grass is not always greener, I guess. But yeah, I think that this game is going to come down to, it's going to be low scoring. First of all, it's going to be really, really low scoring. Like even maybe like how it was in 2024 in Norman, where it was just a barn burner until two Alabama turnovers, set up Oklahoma for short fields and a pick six. So I've been struggling with this. My bias is definitely putting a little bit of vein in this pick, but I'm going to go Alabama wins in a squeaker, and I mean absolute squeaker. And I'm going to go the opposite of the Oklahoma LSU game. I'm going to say Alabama wins 17-13 in Norman, and it's going to be you're going to be clenching your ass the whole game if you're a fan of either one of these teams, because first team to 20 might win. That's all I got to say.
Oh yeah, no, that's definitely the kind of game it's going to be, because Oklahoma has that stingy defense,
Yeah,
and Alabama is going to struggle at that just because of those reasons that you outlined. I don't know what the confusion has been with Ty Simpson going up to the line with dialing up plays recently, because I feel like he's letting it drag all the way down to like 5, 4, 3, 2 seconds, and we still don't know
absolutely.
we don't know what we're doing. We're still not set, and so that gives your defensive line an advantage. So like those fundamental things have been off about Alabama, and then just not being able to run the ball and establish tempo effectively. That has also thrown that offense way off of balance. And so going up against the defense like Oklahoma, I mean, it's it's gonna be a struggle. It's gonna be a challenge for the Tide on Friday night, but ultimately, I think that Alabama has to do its best to not beat itself. I've been saying that about Alabama all year. I feel like there's been a litany of occasions this year where this team has beaten themselves. You've seen it against Auburn, seen it against South Carolina, we saw it against Oklahoma, we saw it against Florida State. Can't let that happen. You can't give Oklahoma good field position. Can't turn the ball over. You can't have empty drives. It's like a washcloth. You got to wring as much water out of the washcloth as you possibly can in this game. If you're Alabama, to use an analogy, I know that was a hell of an analogy, but that was the first thing that's I could think of here. But the Tide are favored by a point and a half. Yeah, my bias is showing a little bit, but even if I was a Washington Huskies fan, I would pick Alabama here because fundamentally in this sport, very seldomly do I see the same team being the same team twice in 1 year. It just
doesn't happen.
Especially teams of this caliber, both Alabama and Oklahoma. I just don't feel like it happens. So Alabama, don't beat yourselves. Don't give Oklahoma short fields, and I think you win this thing. But like you said, it is an ass clencher.
And it's not even like these two teams are almost mirror images of each other. You both teams, yeah, I think that Alabama might have a stronger wide receiver group than Oklahoma, probably for sure. They got one of the best wide receiver groups in the country. But you look at Oklahoma, and they've definitely got, a plus on defense in terms of just pressure and consistency. This defense has won them games, and I'm not saying Alabama's hasn't, but this defense for Oklahoma has quite literally put them in this position, and they're going to be motivated. Alabama, as a fan of Alabama, please do not let these guys beat you after spitting on your logo and taking pictures on your logo. Me and you watched that live, and it just play with some heart and some pride.
I was angry all night that night, and I don't want to be angry again on Friday night. I want to go to sleep as happy Brian after this game on Friday. And like you said, it's that old school Bama mentality, and I know that gets thrown around a lot. I know it's kind of a cliche, especially in our community, but it's very true. That's something that take a lot of pride in the script day, in our history, in our tradition.
Yeah.
And you see somebody spit on your logo, you take that shit personally, and the way that they chirped after they won that game in November, in our town, like it. Now we get the opportunity. God has given us the opportunity to go back to Norman and get our revenge. Let's do it. Let's check the box. Let's close the deal here. I'm going
and silence the critics too that say you don't deserve to be here.
Silence the critics, damn it. Silence the Notre Dame fans.
Yeah.
Prove them wrong, damn it. Prove them wrong. All right, we've got some exciting stuff to get into here. That's just the first half of the show. Now we're going to get into our brackets. And Luke, I think I'm going to start with you here because...
All righty.
Now, both of us have a team going very far that I think is going to catch some people off guard. But I don't care because if you have watched the sport all year and if you've watched this team, you shouldn't be surprised when we throw it up here. But let's start with Luke here.
Let's do it.
I clipped the wrong button. Here we go. Here is Luke's official college football playoff brackets prediction.
All righty. So we'll start in the first round. We've gone through all those. You see, set up for some interesting matchups, and we've previewed all of those. And we'll start with Oregon and Texas Tech. Now, don't look at the rest of the bracket yet, but Texas Tech is a team that I think is the most well-rounded team in all of college football. We were talking before the show, and I just said, even though they play in the Big 12 and they really have just dominated everybody they played against, they when healthy, obviously. They are a team to me that kind of just stands out when I look at them. I don't pinpoint a single weakness for them. If I could pinpoint a weakness for them, sometimes I would say they're overly confident and overly aggressive in their own abilities, but for good reasons. Kicking is also an issue for them. We saw that in the Big 12 championship. Um, Kicking is definitely a question mark, which could come in very crucial for them in a few of these games. Starting with Texas Tech and Oregon, I think that Texas Tech is going to be rested. We talked about the injury issues for Oregon already. Texas Tech ranks top 20 in the five main defensive categories in the country, and they rank top 5 and 4 of the categories. So I think that they'll be able to limit Oregon's offense and ultimately kind of just bully ball Oregon in a way, which in kind of similar fashion to what Indiana did to Oregon. And they're not relying on throwing the ball like USC is. Oregon has great passing defense, but Texas Tech doesn't need to do that to win. We move to Alabama and Indiana. This is simply just for me. I think that Indiana has never been here before. Quite literally, they've never been in a spot like this, and I think the moment might be a little too bright for them. And I think Alabama actually is a bad matchup for Indiana when it comes up to just personnel wise. Um, that win against Ohio State was very impressive for Indiana. They've impressed me and shocked me all year long. But I think that if Alabama can get out of Norman alive, it kind of just resets their momentum. And I believe that they'll be able to take down Indiana in the Rose Bowl, which I've been talking to a lot of adults recently and talking to them about Indiana football. And they said, if you had told me 30 years ago that Indiana football would be in the Rose Bowl, I would have called you crazy and said that you were tripping on something. And so I was like, yeah, you know what? If you told me that my whole life, I'd probably say the same thing. So I like Alabama to beat Indiana. I like another low scoring game, and I like Alabama's defense to give Indiana some problems. Now, don't get me wrong. They've got a ton of playmakers on the outside, can definitely get deep. Alabama's corners are very shaky at times. Um, but I don't think that Indiana's defense is as capable. I think that this Oklahoma defense that Alabama's about to face, outside of maybe how Georgia played in the SEC championship, will be the best that they face. Um, we'll see though. Moving down to Ole Miss and Georgia. What's our motto? Hard to beat a team twice. Ole Miss easily could have won that game in Athens as well. Um, Georgia, you were right. I was wrong about Georgia. You said that you felt like they're just now hitting their peak. I said that maybe it's the competition level. All props to you. You were 1,000% right. They look like a completely different team from September. But I do think that Ole Miss has the talent to match up with them. And I think that Ole Miss has the offense to outscore them. So I like Ole Miss to get this one done. Miami and Ohio State. I had a real big hesitation on this game because I feel like this Miami team got a pretty good draw for them, like in terms of matchups. Ohio State, we saw the feebleness of their offense at times against Indiana. They were really stifled. Um, Talk about kicking issues. Mr. Fielding cannot be missing 25 yarders in championship games. The pressure and the lights were too bright for you. But Ohio State's defense is. We talked about Carson Beck turning the ball over. This Ohio State defense will generate some turnovers against a Carson Beck led offense, and you've got the secondary to slow down their wide receivers with Malachi Tony. You got Caleb Downs back there, quarterbacking the defense, and the front seven of Ohio State is really like surprisingly, I feel like underrated. It's always the secondary is all everybody talks about with Downs back there, but the front seven of Ohio State is very good against the run and very tough against even in coverage, like little zone coverage. Linebackers are great and they communicate well. So I think that Ohio State will get it done against Miami in a quick fashion. I'd say a couple turnovers and Ohio State goes up a few scores and then never looks back. Um, Moving to Alabama and Texas Tech in the college football playoff semifinals. Who would have saw this coming 10 years ago? Well, you might have expected one team here, but Patrick Mahomes is not walking through that locker room for Texas Tech, and I don't think a lot of people would have expected that when Texas Tech won 4 games about 3 years ago. Um, no, this Texas Tech team is too much for Alabama. I think this is a horrendous matchup for Alabama. Texas Tech's Alabama, and that defense led by Rodriguez, the nasty linebacker, he will definitely generate some pressure and stop the run, which it's clearly not hard to stop the run against Alabama. Let's put it that way. And This is a Texas Tech team you cannot be one dimensional against. Um, Texas Tech, I think, handles Alabama. I talked about Indiana not being in this spot before. Texas Tech's never been in this spot before either, but they are, I think, better equipped to beat this Alabama team than that Indiana team is. If Indiana does beat Alabama, I think it'll be a very interesting matchup between those two teams, and I still like Texas Tech to win that matchup. Ole Miss and Ohio State. This would be an interesting matchup. I don't remember the last time we've gotten a matchup between Ole Miss and Ohio State. I well, one, because Ole Miss as a program really hasn't been in this national limelight for very long. But for me, this matchup is just simply about the coaching aspect. I don't think Ryan Day is the most incredible coach in the country, but Pete Golding has quite literally zero experience as a college football head coach. Ryan Day will run circles around Pete Golding. And don't get me started on damn Matt Patricia. Where the hell are they getting these NFL coaches from? Where the hell are they getting these guys from? What this coaching staff is loaded. So I think that this Ohio State defense will stifle this Ole Miss offense a little bit, and I think they're more physical than Ole Miss in almost every aspect. I could see Ole Miss maybe going up early or something, but I think Ohio State. It's hard to beat the champs, and I think Ohio State goes right back to that championship game. But this is where things get interesting in my bracket. One, I don't like Ohio State. I'm not scared to admit it. But I think that this Ohio State team, you saw what that Indiana team did to Ohio State and how they were able to confuse the offense and confuse Julian Sayin and confuse really everybody. But that Ohio State defense is just so damn good that it kept them in the game for as long as it did. And obviously put a little bit of a hurting on Mendoza, but he still made the drives when it mattered. Texas Tech, I feel the same way about them. I think that Texas Tech has proven all year long that when it matters, when they needed a drive against BYU to kind of, first of all, BYU, don't get me started on them turning the ball over, and that offense was atrocious, true freshman quarterback. But when Texas Tech needed to make drives early in the game, when BYU went up 7-0 in the first quarter on the first drive, Texas Tech immediately responded. They were a little cute at times. I thought that maybe they should have just simplified it a little bit. But my boy Morton can sling the rock, and dude, I'm telling you, this Texas Tech offense is, I think, an improved version of Indiana's, which is crazy to say considering Indiana has the Heisman Trophy winner. But on the Ohio State side, I don't believe maybe I'm being too qualitative more than I am quantitative, but I just don't see a team going back to back in a 12-team playoff format. I just think that it's a really difficult thing to do. And for that reason, and I think I texted you this too, I think we're due for a random champion.
Yeah.
We've had the brands, we've had the Alabamas, the Georgias, Ohio State, even LSU's a known team. But what about a team like Clemson? Like Clemson wasn't really a like sought after national title contender for a while, and then all of a sudden they came out with Deshaun Watson and they put the right team together. Oil money here, oil money does a lot of things, and the most expensive team won last year, and one of the most expensive teams is going to win this year, and I like the Texas Tech Red Raiders. The balanced attack, the balanced defense, just I love Gregoire. Just got that extension. Put it to good use, buddy. Get those Texas Tech Red Raiders a national championship. And the Big 12, you better be hoping that this happens because you don't have a lot of other options. So give me the Texas Tech Red Raiders to win the national championship. Like I said, this bracket's a little random. I am confident in Ole Miss against Georgia. I'm confident in Ohio State against either of the winner of the Texas A&M Miami game. Alabama, Indiana, is there a little bias there? Yeah, but I think Alabama got a good draw. I think Alabama could beat Texas Tech. I don't see it happening. Tech, Oregon. I think I think that Oregon game is going to show a lot about Texas Tech, whether or not they're ready to make a deep run or not. That's going to be the real what do you call it? The litmus test for Texas Tech right there. But I do think they get it done. So that's my
Yeah, that
bracket.
one I'm gonna throw mine up here in a minute, and I'm with you on that Texas Tech Oregon game. Like there's something about it that that screams Texas Tech statement game.
Yeah,
Oh, sometimes you can feel it in the air. It's like in the summertime in Alabama when there's a thunderstorm approaching. You can feel the air pressure change, and this just it feels like it's indicating a statement game out of Texas Tech in this Oregon matchup.
and I have one more thing to add too. About this Texas Tech Oregon matchup. Say Oregon wins and Indiana wins, you've got another rematch here. And what do we say? It's hard to beat a team twice. So Oregon could easily, just as easily, end up in that national championship. I really like the spot for the 4 and 5 seeds this year, and I like the upper half of the bracket for anybody trying to make a deep run. I think the upper half of the bracket is without a doubt the lighter side. And I think the bottom half of the bracket is a damn war zone. It's like when you get those divisions and you get those or the regions in March Madness, and you look at one
Yeah,
region, you're like, they got screwed. Yeah, bottom of the bracket, good luck.
yeah. Like I would hate to be Miami. I would hate to be
Yeah,
Miami. I would hate to be Texas Tech. I would see that get released. I'd be like, son of a bitch, because either way, you're gonna have Ohio State or Georgia at some point. If you want to go to the national championship, you're gonna have to get through one of those two inevitably. And so that's and most likely it would be both. So I would hate that spot if I were the Hurricanes or the Aggies this weekend, where it's if you're Texas Tech, it's kind of beat up Oregon team. Oh, it's an Alabama team with a lot of flaws. You win two
yeah,
consecutive games, you're gonna have some momentum going to that Ohio State game. And
yeah,
so
you are.
I just like the way that it plays out for Texas Tech. And again, and I'm going to talk about it here in a minute, but I think the team's about to make a statement. But one thing I wanted to tie back in about your bracket here, those semifinal matchups. So Alabama and Texas Tech, they have played once.
Okay,
They played in the Cotton Bowl in 2005,
right.
and I believe it was Alabama that won that game 13-10.
That was
Um,
the year. That was the year that Alabama was undefeated until Tyrone Prothro snapped his leg against Florida. So that was
yes,
a really, really good Alabama team.
yes, that was a very solid team. Didn't take a lot of points to win that thing either. Um, and then Ohio State and Ole Miss have played each other 0 times. That would be the first ever matchup between the Reds and the
That's
Bucs.
See, I couldn't really think of a time where I saw an Ohio State Ole Miss matchup. So I'm glad that you clarified that for me.
That's your first one, and I like that matchup. I think that it would be electric, but I'm with you when it comes to the coaching mismatch, and I'm going to
And,
touch on it here in a minute.
and we can't really and we can't really get a bad matchup in the bottom half of the bracket. Is all I gotta say. Oh, we can't really get a bad matchup in this whole bracket. So
I
yeah,
really think that once you get done with Oregon, JMU, Ole Miss, Tulane, I think once you get those games out of the way, any combination you get from here on out is going to be cinema, low point spreads, just even matchups between you. Like this is, like you said at the beginning of this episode. I like this draw. I like this bracket a lot better than the one that we had last year. I actually I feel like there's better teams. I feel like we had higher quality football in 2025 overall than we did 24. I think there are a lot of teams that just had holes in them last year. I mean,
yeah.
outside of Ohio State and Texas, which I really thought was your national championship here at AT&T Stadium. Outside of those two, I think that everybody else was just kind of a jumbled shit show, honestly. And
Yeah,
this fields, I mean, I look at Texas Tech, I look at Ohio State, I look at Georgia, I look at Indiana, I look at what Ole Miss and Alabama and Oregon could bring to the table. I mean, this look, this could be what we've been looking for at the 12-team playoff. This could be.
this and this is what the dream was for the committee when they put when
Yeah,
or the NCAA when they put this into perspective.
this is a beautiful thing, and I cannot wait to experience it. I'm gonna throw mine up here for everyone
Let's
to see.
see it. Let's see it.
So
I think we'll have some similarities and some differences.
No, it's definitely a very similar bracket. We have similar teams going very far, but we do have a different national champion.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't doubt that. I love it.
Here,
Wow. Okay.
there it is. So I think that you and I have a very similar read on that Texas Tech Oregon game. I think that it's one of those games where the national media is going to expect the Big Ten team to come in and just expose the Big 12 team, right? Because they play a more challenging schedule. It's just a different breed of talent in the SEC and the Big Ten, yada yada yada. And I think to a certain degree, Oregon may have the mentality of, yeah, we're just going to destroy these guys. It's a Big 12 team. Who are they?
Yeah.
Whereas Texas Tech is a monster in the making. Some teams just look different on the screen. I believe it's Colin Cowherd that says it. Sometimes you just got to turn the volume off on the TV and just watch. I wouldn't care if this team was in the Sun Belt.
Yeah.
This team up and down, I think even more than Ohio State, is the most complete team in college football. Their defensive front, their offensive line, their
Hmm.
receiver. I love Coy Eakin.
Yeah.
I love Reggie Virgil. I mean,
Yeah. I didn't mention them. Those guys are incredible.
they're that could be what that's one of your best receiver combos in the country, and then Barron Morton of course too, very underrated. But there is an Oregon game that I watched full length this year that this kind of reminds me of, but it's also a completely different circumstance and setup as well. So Oregon played Iowa right back in November,
Yeah.
and I say this to say that Iowa put Oregon's offense in a blender.
Yeah.
And the reason that Oregon was able to pull this game off was it was sloppy, it was cold, it was neutralized. Iowa couldn't do much on offense at all either. So it was kind of all right. Whoever can score last, whoever touches the ball last, let's put a drive together. Dante Moore had some theatrics on that drive. He looked great,
Hmm.
and Oregon was able to escape that game. I think that defensively, Texas Tech is going to give Oregon the same looks. But the thing is Texas Tech is a lot more capable of an offensive team than Iowa, and that's where I think that they're going to blow the doors off of Oregon here. Maybe not so much from the score, but I think that's from just the shock factor. They're going to blow the doors off of this team, and Oregon is a team where health is a question mark right now. Texas Tech is one of your healthier teams in college
Yeah.
football. They went through some bumps with their quarterback situation with both Barron Morton and Will Hammond during the season, but we've got full health out of Barron Morton now. Oregon, they've got some question marks on the offensive line. Corian Moore, Evan Stewart, are they going to be able to play? And we haven't seen consistency out of Dante Moore. He feels very Caleb Williams in 2024 with the Bears, where you saw great things out of him, but it hasn't all come together. I feel like he's a guy that if he stays another year, he can be in New York and win your Heisman next season. But right now, he still has strides to make. And it's all about timing, Luke. We say all the time, it is all about timing. Health,
Absolutely.
rhythm, momentum. Texas Tech has all of it. Watch this team play in Arlington, and they just have energy. And they are ready to show the world who the fuck they are. And this
Hmm.
is their opportunity to do it on a national stage. I think that they take over Oregon in this game. Very long-winded answer, but I have a lot of conviction about that game, so I'm taking Tech there and about this
I
Tech
love it.
team overall. Um, Alabama, Indiana. I'm with you on that. I think it's a matchup nightmare for Indiana, not only from a physical standpoint, but from a psychological standpoint as well.
Yeah.
Think about Indiana. Everybody and their mother and their brother is telling you how great you are right now, blowing smoke up your ass. If I'm Kurt Signetti, I hate that, and I'm sure that he does. You got Fernando Mendoza just won the Heisman. It's a great honor. Everybody loves the Indiana story. Everybody adores the Indiana story. I made an Indiana video last week. It got 3,000 views. It was great for the channel.
Wow.
But I said to say, everybody adores the Indiana story. I posted the clip about Fernando Mendoza talking about his mom the other day. It's got like 160,000 views on Instagram. Like it's
Really.
everybody is eating this Indiana story up right now, and it's
Yeah.
great. It's great for content. It's great for college football, but it's not great inside that building because when everybody tells you, Saban's talk about this all the time, everybody tells you how great you are. You believe them, and you think you can't be stopped. On the flip side of the coin, you've got a team like Alabama. Everybody wants to see you fall. Everybody hates you.
Yeah.
Everybody wants you to stumble. Everybody's there to point the finger at you when you lose. And everybody's telling you that you suck and Notre Dame should be in the playoff over you. Well, if Alabama goes and gets their revenge in Norman, which we both think that they're going to, they're going to go into this game with a little chip on their shoulder against that team who everybody's got on the pedestal. And Alabama's going to be ready to play that villain mode like they always have throughout
Yeah.
history. And they're damn good at it, and they're going to do it again. I like the Tide to win that game. Like you said, physically too. I just think that they are a nightmare for the Hoosiers. So give me Alabama in that one. Ole Miss and Georgia. I know we have our line. Lightning doesn't strike twice in a year. But that was also Kirby Smart and Lane Kiffin. Now you've got Kirby Smart and Pete Golding. I like my coaching matchup there. I like my coaching matchup a lot there. So, and like I've been saying on this show, I think Georgia's your most red hot team outside Texas Tech in the nation right now. They are absolutely peaking at the right time. Offensively, that defense was the jump that the defense had on Alabama and Georgia Tech was nuts. They've reworked the trenches, they've reworked the offensive line. Nate Frazier's popping off in the running back room right now, and so I like Georgia to beat Ole Miss there. I think they're a little less finesse and a little more just punch in the mouth. I like that this time of year. Let's go with dogs. And then you've got Ohio State and Texas A&M here. Same thing. Especially on offense, I think more of a finesse team against more of a punch in the mouth kind of team. I think the Ohio State's just throwing the kitchen sink at you here. Jeremiah Smith, Carnell Tate, Brandon Inniss. And I like that Texas A&M defense, but I think that has cracks in it. And an offense that layered coming and Ohio State's like in Alabama. You lose to America's team, Indiana. Everybody hates Ohio State too, so they're going to point the finger at you and laugh. This team's pissed off. They're fed up. They're ready to make a statement. I think they do against Texas A&M. Then you've got Tech and Alabama, and I completely agree with everything you said with that game. I think that's a matchup nightmare for the Tide. And I think at that point, Tech is going to have so much momentum that they're just going to ride it into the Natty. I like them to beat Alabama. Then you've got Georgia and Ohio State. And I think this could be a preview for your national championship before it even happens. I think this could be your two best teams in the nation playing each other right here. But in a 12-team playoff, it's just like the NFL now. It's hard to repeat as Super Bowl champions. Only the Chiefs and Patriots have done it in my lifetime. It's hard to repeat as national champions. I believe it's only Alabama that's done that in my lifetime. And I don't think that Ohio State does it this year. I think that Kirby and the Dogs get back to the national championship and get it done against a Texas Tech team who had their best year in school history. But at the end of the day, it is Kirby Smart and the Dogs who climb back to the mountaintop. Give me Georgia to win this thing.
Yeah, see, that's if Georgia gets out of that Mississippi that Ole Miss game, I could see them making a run.
And that is the thing is if they get out of that, and which I don't want to understate that because Ole Miss is going to be a tough out. I mean, I know the whole Lane thing happened, but this is a tight knit together team, and they are going to give Georgia hell, just like they did in that matchup in Athens. I think it's going to be very similar to that game, really. But just like that game, I like Georgia.
And I do agree. I think that Georgia would beat Ohio State if they matched up on a neutral field. I'm pretty confident in that right now. I would say Georgia would probably be favored over Ohio State on a neutral field as well. We have the same upper half of the bracket. I think to a T. And I think that Georgia would beat Texas Tech if they matched up with them. So I think that for both of our brackets, the real big thing is that Georgia and Ole Miss game.
Yeah.
That's kind of what we, I guess, highlighted as the really peak game and the real kind of bruiser. And well, wouldn't that be something if Tulane beat Ole Miss?
Well, that would completely throw both our brackets completely off. But I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. I'll join you in saying that. So.
yeah, we have the top half is completely the same. Bottom half, the only thing that's different. I mean, you have like you said earlier, you have Miami winning. I have A&M winning, but I feel like both of those teams lose to Ohio State. But that is our brackets. I'm sticking to that. I'm keeping a buck. That is what it is. And
Yep.
anything that goes awry, I'll completely own it. But I'll be posting that on the socials tonight for everyone to see, and I can't wait to hear the feedback.
Yeah. I I have a feeling that my Alabama crowd will not be too happy with me, but I think that we are all in the same boat if we can see what's coming.
I know I'm going to hear a lot about. I'm going to hear a lot about Texas Tech in general. I'm going to hear from the Oregon people because I have a lot of them following me, and I'm going to hear from the Alabama people, and I have a good Tech crowd, so I'm going to hear you know cries of joy from the Red Raiders faithful, and then from my Alabama and Oregon brethren, it's going to be what the fuck are you thinking?
Yeah.
But then in 2 weeks, I'll be like, I told you. I think a lot, and I think I'll get some flack for Alabama beating Indiana too. And I'm ready to take that for what it is. But again, I just like that psychological mismatch.
Yeah,
It's a thing.
it is. And it's like Alabama versus Indiana. Do they really think that they can beat the Alabama Crimson Tide? And we'll find out. And Cignetti is not one to be doubted because they've done already overcome a lot of psychological barriers this year.
And that's my thing is it's tough. It's tough to doubt that guy because he proves us wrong so much. But it's also it's it's how long the season is now. It is such a marathon, and I think that Indiana is going to be an example of that this year of the impacts of that because they're 13-0, they're conference champions, and they've already done so much this season. They played a full season. There's still 3 to go. That's the
Yeah.
crazy thing is this team is so decorated, so accomplished, and there's still 3 to go.
Yeah, you are not out of the woodworks yet, Indiana.
All right, one more thing before we close the show. I want to ask you your thoughts on this.
Okay.
This whole freaking Heisman thing. I think the right guy won. And I was very happy to see Mendoza walk away with that thing. And the way that Pavia conducted himself afterwards, I just want to say, makes me even happier that Mendoza walked away with that trophy.
I think that you can tell who if the right guy won or not based on how they conduct themselves after the ceremony. Um, Pavia's stats were incredible. I mean, I'm not going
Yeah.
to as much as I don't really like the guy, I won't fault his game. His game is great, and he took Vanderbilt to a new height. Mendoza took Indiana to an even higher height, and
Yes.
he went undefeated, and he's the Big Ten champion, and he's in the college football playoffs with the Indiana Hoosiers as the number 1 seed. Um, I think that a lot of times stats are sometimes take away from the actual player, and there's a lot of times where Mendoza didn't really he didn't really have to do too much, but if he was needed to and he was called upon, he did. I think that Oregon game
Yeah.
is a big like testament to that. So I think that Mendoza should have won. My Heisman personally was Jeremiah Love. I thought he was the best player in college football, and I thought he was the most valuable player to his team. But you, obviously he wasn't going to win it, so I'm not too upset about that. But I will give Jeremiah. I'll give Notre Dame some credit because I've been hating on him a lot. I think Jeremiah Love was the best player in college football.
I will say, my Heisman didn't even make it to New York.
Who was your Heisman?
Jacob Rodriguez.
He's definitely up there.
I'm a defensive guy.
Defensive guy. He did a lot of things that you don't see out of a lot of defensive guys. And even Gunnar Stockton had something to say about it. So, you know,
Yeah, Gunnar Stockton, which him and Ty and Dante Moore could all be coming back next year. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes itself out. But one last thing too, this whole bowl game situation.
oh gosh,
How do you fix it?
I don't think you do.
Do you think it's dead?
I don't. I don't see the only way that you fix this bowl game situation is by moving National Signing Day and moving the transfer portal window because by the time a lot of these guys by the time they get to November, they're already looking at their next stop, where they're going to be next year, and who's going to pay them the most
Yeah,
money. I think that the bowl game I think it's hard for guys to commit to playing a bowl game and risk the thousands of dollars that they get. I think NIL really killed bowl games.
I agree. I'm with you. I think it's all down to that transfer
But it
window.
sucks too.
Yeah,
It sucks too. Like
I love
I'm
bowl
very
games.
glad I'm very glad that we get a BYU and Georgia Tech matchup. I'm very happy to see that. And I think that for programs like that aren't solely reliant on transfers and kind of work more within their own program, I think that bowl games are very valuable because BYU, I have a feeling, is going to retain a ton of their roster, and
Yeah.
Georgia Tech, if they are able to, is going to retain a lot of the guys that are able to come back next year. And so I think that bowl games can be valuable for guys. Also, I think that if you're a player, you should be like, this bowl game is a chance for me to up my NIL value, up more money that
Oh
I
yeah.
could get, become a star, become a focal point of the offense. So I'm I hate it because I didn't even do a bowl mania this year. I wanted to, but it's just like there's no point because you don't even know what team's playing. It's like week one again.
I stopped doing it in 2023. I did it in 2023 with Zeke and a few others, and I got royally fucked because I I picked the whole fields, and then I'll never forget it. I believe it was Syracuse and South Florida in a bowl game, and
Yeah,
Syracuse starting their tight end at quarterback because their room was depleted. They either transferred or were hurt. I'm like, well, I couldn't have seen this coming. And Zeke's like, oh no, you got right with your pick. I'm like, no. I'm like, I did not foresee them losing their quarterback. Like, fuck.
yeah.
So
And then their whole offense. They were playing what, in the Pinstripe Bowl or something?
yeah,
They
it
were
was
they were playing in Yankee Stadium. I'm pretty sure. I think I remember maybe Fenway Bowl or something. I have no idea, but I think
that's
it
what it
feel like
was. It was the Wasabi Fenway Bowl.
yeah. And I think I'm pretty sure. I remember that bowl game. That was a tough watch.
That yeah, it was like 45-3 because
Yeah.
one team had a quarterback and the other team didn't. So,
Was it was that freshman year, or that was, I guess, was that Byron Brown at quarterback for USF still?
yes, that's the first
Did
time he
you
played Alabama.
did you
Was that year?
see did you see he's coaching the bowl game?
Yeah. You see, that's where we're at now.
Yeah,
And then,
interesting.
another one that year that was just absolutely putrid was that Missouri Ohio State Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, I
And
have
Missouri still flexes about it. They're like, huh, we stomped Ohio State. I'm like,
they had Devin Brown at quarterback.
yeah, I mean, which I don't know where Devin Brown is now.
I want to say I want to say he might be at like Boston College.
Yeah, I think might be all right. I think he's behind Lonergan. But yeah, that's Missouri's been still beats their chest about that, and I'm like, yeah, you played Devin Brown. You played their second string. Like it was 14-3. It was that game was just a slop fest overall.
And Ohio State was favored on the points. Just gotta let you know, I had Missouri on the points, so
You had a
and
pulse.
on and on the money line. I've had a feeling it was coming.
That was like me with Texas and Texas A&M. You just had a feeling, and I think we're onto something with Texas Tech and Oregon, but time will tell.
I like our brackets. I think we got a lot of good predictions. I think we got a lot of things that are very circumstantial, and I hope that we're right.
I feel good. I don't. Sometimes I feel a little shaky with predictions, but the only I'm shaky about this weekend is Miami, Texas A&M. The other three, like I'm confident in Alabama's revenge. I just the more I think about it, the more it just makes sense to me.
Yeah. Well, you're making
But
me feel a little bit better.
A&M and Miami, I don't know. I'm not going to risk the mortgage on that one.
Uh-oh.
Well, thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you for joining Luke. We will be back to preview the semifinal or no quarterfinal games. Your
Yep.
Rose Bowl that here in a few weeks, couple days after Christmas. But thank you for coming on. Thank you all for watching. Have a great night.
Let's go. Playoffs. They're
Hell
talking
yeah.
about playoffs.
Playoffs. That poor Jim Moore. I watched a highlight video with him last night at that Dolphins Colts playoff game, and That guy did not belong in royal blue and white.
No, he did not. No, he did not.
But we will end it there. Thank y'all for
Yeah.
watching. Have a good night.